I stood outside during a downpour and took a long drag from my cigarette. I didn't like smoking in my house, so I always stepped outdoors no matter how rainy or cold it was. That's how bad that addiction had its hold on me. After 3 decades of smoking, I really hated my cigarettes. I'd known the little suckers my entire life since my parents smoked. But I didn't meet Mr. Marlboro personally until I was in my early teens. I didn't realize at the time he would become my constant companion, and I didn't expect it would be such a struggle to say goodbye. My family lived in the boondocks of New Mexico. The population of the town where I went to school was mostly Mexican American. Somewhere I'd heard smoking stunted a person's growth, so I thought I'd give it a try. Anything to stop smoking. When I was 13, I asked my 10-year-old sister to show me how to smoke. She picked up the habit when she was 7. So one night we stole some of Mom's cigarettes and snuck out the back door. I kept looking over my shoulder to make sure no one was watching. Coyotes could always be heard howling in the distance. My ear was lit, but I didn't even notice the howling that night. My ear was listening for the back door to open. I was afraid we'd get busted. We made it to where the backyard began to slope down and walked a few more feet. I looked back one more time before sitting down out of sight. In hindsight, I wonder if by stealing that last glance of home, I somehow knew when I walked back through the door, I wouldn't be the same innocent schoolgirl anymore. My sister explained how to light a cigarette and inhale, so I pressed one between my lips and lit the other end. But I didn't inhale, I swallowed. And I hacked and I coughed and I gasped. Yet I pushed on, bound and determined to learn how to smoke that night. And it quickly became my refuge, a substitute for no friends around the corner like I had when we lived in town. A source of comfort when I felt unlovable during those awkward coming-of-age years. So there I was, stuck in the middle of nowhere, lonely with no friends. Cigarettes helped ease that loneliness. My 9th grade year, we moved to California. I became friends with girls who smoked. They looked so sophisticated, making perfect smoke rings. They knew more about boys, got to go to the beach with their friends, and stayed out late at night. Being raised Catholic and going to Catholic school, I was sheltered most of my life, so it was hard for me to be cool like them. But at least I tried. One time, I flicked away a cigarette while it was still clenched between my teeth. The glowing tip separated from the cigarette and landed on my upper eyelashes. The smell of singed hair, well, I never did that again. I'm pretty sure I was addicted by 11th grade. I'd open my bedroom window upstairs and blow the smoke out. I didn't want the smoky haze hanging in the air in case my parents came up to check on me. In high school, I began hiding my smoking from friends and my new boyfriend. He'd smell smoke on me, but I'd say it was from Mom and Dad smoking around me. In college, another boyfriend said he could taste cigarettes on me when we kissed. I was very aware guys might not like me if they saw me smoke. After graduating from college, I tried to quit for the first time. I found a program that cost hundreds of dollars. Another boyfriend even encouraged me to give it a try, and it worked. We eventually broke up and I was alone once again. I returned to smoking, and it finally dawned on me that friends and boyfriends came and went, but cigarettes were always there waiting. During the big milestones in my life, getting married, having my first baby, turning 30, I always said I'd quit, but I never did. My husband finally did, but still liked his Jack Daniels. I still smoked, but got tired of partying. On top of that, he started pulling away from our religious faith, and I took more of an interest in it. We were heading in opposite directions. And then my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. Her hair began falling out from chemotherapy. My heart broke seeing her bawl. I cried listening to her throw up on the other side of the bathroom door. The one person who had always been there for me, my one constant, was slipping away. And yet I clung tighter to my cigarettes. She died 3 months later, and in my grief, I finally saw with my own eyes the consequences of her addiction. That's what moved me to give up cigarettes. I'd been smoke-free for 1.5 years when my husband decided he didn't want to be married anymore. Once again, I was devastated by loss. I yearned for intimacy, but I didn't want to fill that void with alcohol or drugs or sex. So instead I turned to my old faithful friend, Mr. Marlborough. I was embarrassed I started smoking again, and I knew by keeping it a secret it wouldn't just go away. So I asked 3 girlfriends to pray for me. But the struggle raged on. At night before going to sleep, I told myself this was it. I was done smoking. Yet in the morning, I'd wake up craving a cigarette and pace like a caged lion. So I'd drive to the 7-Eleven and buy a pack. I'd smoke 5 cigarettes before work and then shred the rest in disgust. I'd flush them down the toilet, vowing I'd smoked my last one. After work, the same thing would happen. Buy, smoke, shred, flush, vow. The vicious cycle would start all over the next morning. This went on for 2 months, with me spending $10 a day and smoking only 10 cigarettes. One Sunday, I heard a pastor's sermon about breaking bad habits. He said you need to face the problem head on, 1 minute at a time, that there was something that happens in the human psyche 3 weeks after quitting cold turkey. If you can make it to that point, he said, you can quit anything. I was skeptical. I'd stopped smoking before and picked up cigarettes again. But something inside me stirred. One night, I sunk to the floor, exhausted by yet another failed attempt to quit. I was just so weary from fighting this demon. I didn't know how to stop. And lying face down on the carpet, I cried out to God. I told him I couldn't do this on my own anymore, that I needed his help. I just bawled and bawled, wiping my tears and nose with a soggy tissue. Why couldn't I kick this habit? I'd succeeded at so many things in life, but why not this one? I felt like such a failure, and I didn't want to die like Mom did. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally got up and went to bed. The next morning when I woke up, I didn't go to the 7-Eleven. After work, I still hadn't gone. It was a miracle. My friend's prayers must have worked. I made it through the first day cold turkey. 1 day became 1 week, 1 week became 2 weeks, and then 3. At first, I'd crave cigarettes when I smelled one, but then I'd remember that metallic-y taste from picking up the first cigarette after I'd quit before, and I didn't want to taste that again. 3 years later, my dad died from smoking. I wish I could have inspired him to give up the habit. I miss Mom and him dearly and wish they could have lived longer, and at least I know I probably will. Here I am, 8 years later, smoke-free. There's no longer the shame of being a smoker, and my first thought when waking up in the morning isn't about a cigarette. Instead, I get to lie in bed a few extra minutes, thankful for another day of living.